Everyone, I'm Haley of Haley Journals and welcome to my channel. In this video I will be showing you different spreads in your bullet journal you can use for school. I just graduated college with my associate's degree. I started bullet journaling the summer before my last full year of college, and I honestly wish I would have started sooner. So if you're on the edge or on the fence of starting your bullet journal, you're gonna regret it if you don't do it sooner. I looked at bullet journals on Instagram and Pinterest for probably at least half a year before I actually started one, and now looking back I wish I would have started sooner. My grades got better because I was more organized, my life just felt a lot less chaotic, and I feel like it really did help me, and if this video does anything, I hope it helps someone find a way they can just organize their life, figure out their classes a little bit easier, help them with assignments. In this video I'm going to be showing you a lot of different spreads, so hopefully it won't be too overwhelming. I did do a separate video of project pages that actually does help with school, and I will be showing those again just because they do really partake to school, and most of my project pages were for school anyway. And actually I have spreads from not only my first, not only my second, but actually all three of my bullet journals have spreads in them that I know will work for school. These two I used during my last full year? Yeah, pretty much June to July. Well, June 2016 to July 2017. This was my whole last year of college in these two notebooks. And there are a ton of school notes and stuff like that help me pass pretty much. And this one I started this month, actually August of 2017, and this one actually has spreads that, even though I'm graduated, I know would help either college kids or high schoolers or anything like that. I keep saying college because that's just what I just graduated from. So I'm sure any of these spreads can be to any level, any grade, any style of school. I feel like these could actually work, and I can't wait to show you guys because I really feel like these will be helpful to at least someone out there. So the main spreads and ideas that I will be showing you today to help you with your school life are the dashboards that will help sort of give you an overview of your school life, color coding, time management, project pages that I've actually done a whole video on like I mentioned, and fancy to-do lists that will actually help you more than you think they will. So those are like the main sort of categories. I'm sure I'm missing something in there, but I will be going over all of these little tabs that I have, whether I go over them briefly or more in depth. If you want to see one more in depth, feel free to comment which one and the timestamp down below in the comments if you find one that you want more information on. I am happy to reply with some information on it, and if you want I will even do a school sort of series. So yeah, if there's really a spread that you are finding that you don't understand very well just from this video, feel free to comment down below, and I will be sure, if you specifically say I want a video on it, I will make another video on it. I'm making this video now because I know a lot of schools are either about to start, have already started, or there are people out there who are struggling with the idea of maybe starting one and want some spreads that might help them out just to start out. And like I said, I wish I started sooner, so hopefully this video will, push some people over the one edge of the fence that lets them start a bullet journal. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, we're gonna start with the first sort of 6 months of my last year of college. So this is when I was sort of getting into, the bullet journal swing. As you saw from my first year of bullet journaling stories and stuff, I started in June, and then whenever school came up I started experimenting with different spreads. This was the first one I ever did for school stuff, besides like to-do lists and stuff like that. This is just a fancy to-do list actually, that were just things that I had to do before classes begin. It got it out of my brain, it got it on paper, and it made it easy for me to see what all I had to get done. This may seem like a no-brainer, but it actually does help. not just with like life things, but actually like school things. So like on here I have supplies, what I needed for my bullet journal, stuff I needed to customize, and just like miscellaneous stuff, like, you know, get my nails done, practice note taking, you know, that kind of stuff. Actually on here is like study post-it tips to like use them for school and stuff. I was like hardcore into bullet journaling, guys. I mean, I am now too, but back then I was like, I need to know everything. So that's an option for school. This really helped me actually. I actually crossed off almost everything on here. All the important things anyway I did. So yeah, and then moving on to the next page is a sort of dashboard. So I actually got a little bit switched around here. This is just information on my classes. I got these from either the syllabus that I got from each class, or I got it from just knowledge I already had because I already had the professor. So I had 3D design, astronomy, and general human biology my second to last semester. And on here I just have the room number, office hours, what the professor's name was, and class time, that kind of stuff. This really helped me just have an overview, and it helped me to sort of practice before I actually went into the class. And, you know, just practice my schedule and kind of visualize where everything was. This is one of my project pages. Like I said, the project page video is on my channel already, so I won't go over these too into depth, but pretty much it's just an overview of the project. I made a to-do list to finish it. I was an art major, so I did have a lot of projects, but this can also work for essays and stuff, which I'm going to be showing you in a little bit, so you can see sort of that side of it too. Again, another project page. I had a sketch with this one. I kind of, did a little bit pops of color. This is actually a mess up. I actually wrote something else and then changed my mind. So again, just a fancy to-do list pretty much is all this project page is, but it made it fun, it made it pretty, it made it easier for me to look at. This is probably one of the most amazing spreads. I mean, it doesn't look like much, but the week before finals, I knew what I had to study and I knew what I needed to get done. So on this page, it's just a finals prep page, super simple, didn't take very much effort. I just had my 3 classes, when my finals were, and then the stuff I knew I needed to know for the final. Like for example, my human biology class was the one I was most worried about. So I took a lot of notes on what I needed to know. So I definitely figured out which PowerPoints I needed to study. I knew I needed to review the other chapters with my index cards and my notes. I made my own study guide sheets. I knew it was a 100-point exam, so I knew I needed to do good on it. And I knew I needed to look over the gene expression sheet. So it's just that kind of little jot down notes that I needed to know for my own sake to do well in the final. And then this cute little thing I have in the back of my bullet journal. This was whenever I was getting first introduced to my classes and color coding and the bullet journal system and stuff. This is a little index card, and I just have different colors written for my different classes. So a college event was in red, 3D design was in orange, general human biology was in green, and astronomy was in blue. And I'll show you an example of how I use that color coding in my last sort of month in here. Let's see if I can find a good page for it. Like this. So you can see I wrote it down and then highlighted with my Stabilos, which is all I had at the time. I didn't have Tombos back then. And I just highlighted it a little bit with those Stabilos. And it was enough for me to see quickly what was due what day for what class. And that really helped me. The hardest part was just remembering which colors were for what class. So that's why I made that. And once I got used to it, I could just flip it inside, forget it was even there, which is nice whenever you can washi tape or, tip in certain things, because even though you may need it in the beginning, whenever you're making your weeklies and stuff, you might not need it all the time. So toward the end of the semester, I just did this, out of sight, out of mind. Moving on to my next journal, which was January through July. This was my very last semester of college, and thank goodness, in my opinion. This final semester dashboard idea, I believe, is from Maryplethora on YouTube. I could be wrong. If I am, I'll put it somewhere on the screen. If not, look down below for in the description for a link. But this is just my version of a semester dashboard that I believe she did. Obviously, it didn't really work exactly for me because my classes had to change last minute, so I had to change a lot over here and down here. And this kind of dropped off after my one class ended, and I just didn't have time to look back and look at it. This textbook thing was really helpful because I was able to remember when it was due back. But yeah, just pretty much a huge overview of the semester. Another good idea to have is a productivity challenge. And I know this looks daunting, and I know some are really extensive, but this one from the Boosted Journal, who used to be BuJo Boosted, if you remember Ricardo. This is an amazing productivity challenge to start out with if you want to, get a different version of one that's a little more hardcore, go ahead. But this was a really awesome way for me to stay productive because there were levels and it was almost like a game to be productive. The Forest app is also a really awesome app to have. It keeps you focused. It stops you from looking at your phone. I'll put that in the description too. I'm not sponsored or anything. I just really love the app. It also goes with the productivity challenge because while you can't use your phone, you can be productive. I'll have a card up here for the productivity challenge video. I've shared it a bunch of times, but I swear by it. It's amazing. Again, this is scary looking, but this is actually a project page. This was for my photography class. And again, these project pages are pretty much just fancy little to-do lists. But they're for a specific project, so I like to call them project pages. Makes them sound cooler, you know what I mean? This is the one that I was talking about that's a project page, not necessarily for an art project, but for an essay. So this was an entire, I think it ended up being like a 14-page paper. For my children's literature class. I had to take 4 children's books. I had criteria I had to critique them on, so it was actually kind of like an art project, but it was in an essay form. So this was pretty much, I had criteria I had to go over all of these. I made a running list of all the things I had to do for each one, and I was able to cross them off whenever I finished each one. And this was just a good way to keep me organized because this thing was daunting. Okay, like when I figured out it was going to be close to like 10 or more pages, I was a little bit scared. But this just made it seem a lot easier. It chunked it down into smaller little bits that weren't as scary looking, and it just helped me out a lot because even though, yeah, that looks like a lot, each one of these wasn't that big of a chunk. So it's also just kind of a peace of mind kind of thing. Honestly, I think making a midterm page and finals week pages are the best thing ever. These are, again, project pages, but especially the midterm one. This midterm one helped me so much. I was lucky enough to have a class that actually gave me a midterm sort of study guide. Even though it didn't have a lot of information on it, it let me know the things I needed to know for the midterm. And I actually got it almost 100% on this midterm, and I had never, in other classes, I've gotten hundreds or close to hundreds on midterms, but not in a photography class where I was totally out of my element. And this is all really kind of confusing stuff. This was all like the technical stuff of photography, not the fun side. So this was complete gibberish to me, and I still somehow got an A. And I honestly think it was because of this bullet journal system. And it helped me find a way to visualize how to look at things. I'm a visual person anyway, not everybody is, but just seeing this on paper and seeing that it's not as big and daunting as I think it is. This might look big and daunting to some people, but to me this made it look a lot easier, and it actually helped me out in the long run. The next thing is a color coding kind of system and time management kind of in the same thing. So this was a weekly I found. I don't really remember where the original inspiration was from, but pretty much I have the time on the side, so from 8 to about 10 o'clock, 8 in the morning to about 10 o'clock at night, and I pretty much just highlighted when my classes were. If there was an exam, I wrote exam in the color, so that was plain in my mind. It was like straight in front of my face, so I could not miss the exam day. Obviously, like you remember, red is college events, these are my classes, that kind of thing. And then I had this next week thing that I actually didn't fill in for some reason. I think that was a really busy week, I think. Anyways, but this is just a good way to see your time and how much time you have in between things to work on homework or study. And it's also just a nice way to see how long your day actually is. I always thought this was the longest day ever, and it was really only probably like, what, 2 or 3 hours at the most. So it's also just, it makes things look a lot easier than what they actually feel like. Again, project page, I didn't even ink this one in. For my club that I was president of for all 3 years of college, we were making shirts, and I was in charge of making a shirt design. We ended up going with this one, or a version of it, so that's all this really was for. A running list is a really good idea, and this can actually be paired with your color coding system. So I got this running list idea from Blue Lahi on Instagram. She has awesome running lists. Hers look perfect all the time, and I'm so jealous. But I'm sure there's a better explanation of this. Pretty much it's just the days across, and then you put boxes on the days, you know what I mean. But you can actually fill in those boxes with the color of the thing that you're going with. So, but you can see like different things correlated to different days. And this is just another visual way. If you don't like this way or a different way, a running list might be for you, just because you can easily see the colors before you cross them out. Also, having these kind of mapped out day pages is a really good idea. Graduation day was a whirlwind. I had so much we wanted to do, and we didn't end up doing any of it, but hey, we had a plan just in case we did get that time. So pretty much we were expecting, long story short, we were expecting to have all this time to hang out before the graduation ceremony, and we ended up with this much time. So, but at least we had a backup plan, you know what I mean? So just if you have a busy day of either finals or just studying or something like that, this is a good way to just get your day out on paper that's bigger than, say, you know, one of these, and you can write notes and that kind of stuff, and you can just really see your day at a glance rather than trying to look at a to-do list and figure out when you're going to do everything. Study lists and brain dumps are also good ways to get whatever you need to get done onto paper, because it almost feels like you're committing to it if you write it down on paper, you know? And plus, getting the thoughts out of your brain is really important, actually. I didn't realize how much brain dumps actually helped me until I actually started doing them. I know that sounds silly, but you know, you don't really think of writing down stuff as clearing your mind, but it really does. It kind of like puts everything into perspective. It's like, oh, that's not a big deal as I thought it was going to be, you know, stuff like that. I wish I would started doing brain dumps earlier. This is actually one of the first brain dumps I ever did, just because my brain was so full, obviously, and I was just feeling overwhelmed. And during college or high school, I have been there. I know how it feels. I know the overwhelming sort of, you know, feeling you get from either tests or studying or just a lot of homework. I get it. But honestly, doing a brain dump and just getting everything out of your head, you can then make a list later on that actually kind of puts this into a more sort of organized little list. And that can actually be like your study list for that day. I've done that multiple times, not necessarily in my bullet journal, but just on a piece of paper where I knew I had to get certain things done. I just looked back at my brain dump and transferred it over, and I was able to just get stuff done. And the last thing from this journal is actually from after I graduated. I was reading this book, and it was really confusing, okay? Like, if you friend me on Goodreads, I'll put my link down below. If you friend me on there and you read my review, you'll understand why it was confusing. But honestly, write notes in your bullet journal. Not everyone has their notebooks that day. I know I've forgot my notebooks multiple times, and there was a ton of stuff said that I really wish I would have taken notes on. Even though I was only reading a book for fun, I still took notes, and it helped me so much. So don't be afraid to just, you know, take 2 pages and just write notes, and then you can transfer it to your notebook later. You know, it's not gonna hurt to, like, take up 2 pages, I promise. It took me a long time to figure that out, and I'm hoping that it's not gonna take you guys as long, because I'm telling you it's okay. And honestly, it's a really good idea. I mean, if you're used to how your bullet journal works rather than how your notes in your notebook work, it can actually help you a lot more to take your notes in your bullet journal if you think about it. And this last one, I don't have very many in here, but I do have a few that actually helped me, even though I'm graduated. So these two things are really important. So this is actually the list I made the other day for whenever I hung out at a cafe with my friend. And I'm no longer in school, but this is actually stuff for my business I had to get done. And I was like, I really wish I would have done these a lot more when I was in school. And that's when I put the poll up on my Amino, whether you guys would want to see the school plus bullet journal or the second bullet journal flip through, which is still coming. But this actually blew it out of the water in that poll, was to have these school layouts. And I don't know if that's people remembering my spreads on Instagram or if people are just needing bullet journal help with school. But honestly, if you're going to the library or if you're going to a cafe or hanging out with study buddies, a list like this would be really helpful, because I know multiple times, Morella, if you're watching this, that Morella and I would get together and we would still be awake at 2:30 in the morning and not have had anything done and not have gotten anything done. So these lists are really helpful, especially if you are with friends and you're trying to get stuff done. This is sort of a way to keep, your mind on track. Also, this is just a simple little travel page. I know a lot of people will travel for college or have trips. Like, I know the community college I went to, we had Chicago trips and stuff. This isn't relevant anymore, but the Chicago trips that we had, I kind of wish I would have done stuff for, because it would have been nice to have a list of places I wanted to go and, how much money I had, that kind of stuff. Just little notes like that for traveling. Not everyone travels in college, but it is still kind of a good idea to have sort of a travel log or a travel sort of page that you can keep just to keep your mind on track. And just for an example of how my Milltown /study /get stuff done to-do lists happen. So as you can see, this is my first Milltown one, and I'm actually going to Milltown again tomorrow with my friend Morella, and this is kind of how it starts. So I write everything in pencil first, not gonna lie. And I have my main categories that I've written in bold, and then I got busy at work, so I wasn't able to finish it, but I figured it'd still be good to show that it's not always perfect all the time. So I don't have anything written here yet, but I have the tick marks planned out. I have stuff here that I need to go over. I have stuff right here I need to watch. And then I have orders and stuff that I need to fill in, and I just wrote those down in pencil just to get them out of my brain and know they're on a list somewhere that I can fill them in later. And yeah, not all these lists have to be pretty. I mean, look at this. It's black and white. And this is in my opinion, super messy for me. So, yeah, don't think your school bullet journal or your school spreads have to be perfect, because they don't. You're going to college. Good for you. You are, bettering your future. Bettering? I don't know what English is anymore. You're making your future better. It's okay if you have a messy bullet journal spread. It's not that big of a deal. I've come to realize that, how my spreads look anymore does not matter. I mean, yes, I have a bunch of followers on Instagram. I don't have as many as most, but, I don't care what my bullet journal looks like whenever it goes in there, just because I know it's probably more relatable to people than seeing a perfect spread more like this. Not that it's perfect in any way, but, a cleaner spread. So, who cares if it's messy? It's relatable, it works for you, that's all that matters. Alrighty, now that I've gotten off my soapbox, I hope you enjoyed. I really have been wanting to make this video for quite some time, because, like I said, I wish I would have started sooner. Hopefully this video, if you're on the fence, pushes you to one side or the other. Hopefully it didn't intimidate you. I know there was a lot of information, a lot of spreads, but a lot of them didn't take me that much time to make, and that, I think, was the most important thing I wanted to say, was that these spreads didn't take me a very long time to make. And in college, when you have very little time usually and you have a lot to do, that's the most important thing. I mean, obviously I'm not going to judge you or no one's going to judge you if you have a super pretty artsy, study page. but think of how much time you spent on that you could have been used studying. You know what I mean? Again, no judgment here. I like artsy spreads. I love them. But I just hope that this helps somebody figure out if they wanted to either try some spreads or anything like that. Again, if you have any spreads that you want to see a full video on, let me know down below. If you want to make sure that you see any future videos, hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And I will see you in the next one. Bye!